Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Endless Party.
We're glad you're here. As you can see, it's a party because we have our two special guests.
Bee and Winnie are now 10 months old, which is crazy.
Which means that they are 2 months from their first birthday.
And it also means that they are super interested in our microphones. All of these things are new toys right now.
Which is why you haven't seen them in many podcasts.
Yes.
Because this is why.
Yes, but today they're in the podcast initially because we are going to be sharing why everything changes when you have a child. And in our case, two children.
Yeah, and so we're going to go through the ins and outs of it and how it's actually a blessing, not a curse.
Yes. So,
tune in now.
Everything will change when you have a child. And for some reason in society, this is perceived as something that's very negative.
Yeah.
And transparently, as a mom, things have changed. You know, there definitely is a change in personal space, in the freedom we have to travel, and there is a ton of responsibility that comes with this job.
Mm-hmm.
However, Elijah and I are choosing to see this responsibility of being a parent and getting the opportunity to, be a mother or a father as a promotion. It's a very positive thing.
Yeah. Just because you take on more responsibility in life doesn't mean it's a negative thing. In fact, I've found, and me and Meg have found, that it brings more purpose and more meaning and more fulfillment to your life. And so I actually was on social media a few days ago, and it was this elderly woman talking about how you should view becoming a parent as a promotion. And what's so unique about it is that she compared it to basically having a promotion. She's like, with your new promotion, you get a title, just like any other promotion. And she's like, and now you become mother or father. And she then goes on to explain that no one and nothing can take you away from that. And no one and nothing can fire you from being a mother and father once you have become a parent. And I think that's so unique because forever you will now be somebody else's mother or somebody else's father. And that's a very special and unique opportunity. You have this opportunity to create and shape and mold your own child to become something worthwhile in this life.
I think Elijah and I can agree that the best thing that we've ever done, besides getting married, is having Bee and Winnie.
Yeah.
And this reminds me of this story, and it's about a woman named Cornelia, and it was told back in Rome.
Mm-hmm.
And there were all these women gathered together, and they were showing off their most beautiful jewels and possessions. And it was with vanity and pride that they were showing these beautiful pieces of jewelry that they got to wear. And they turned to Cornelia and they're like, well, where are your jewels? And she goes, well, and she points to her two sons. And she goes, these are my two jewels. These are what I'm proud of. These are what matter most to me. And I think that's so cool because I think even in today's world, especially on social media, there's this idea that material possessions are the most important thing in this life, and the more money you have, the happier you'll be, and the more that, the better you'll be because of it. But that can't be farther from the truth, because the things that do matter most in this life are, your relationships with your family, and especially your children.
Yeah. Jordan Peterson actually says it's a cool insight. I feel like we talk about Jordan Peterson a lot.
We love him.
But he says you kind of get you get a really good deal when you have a kid, because your kid, the only thing they want in life is the single greatest relationship with you. And he goes, and that's a pretty sweet deal. And I would agree. And what's so funny is Bee and Winnie have finally learned to crawl. And I'll be sitting down working, and all of a sudden Bee or Winnie will be underneath my legs or crawl to me, and all they want to do is just be held and picked up and loved. And just already, even before they're 1 year old, they want a stellar relationship with their mom and dad. And I do think that's just a beautiful, I don't know if there's anything more beautiful in this life. I mean, how incredible is it that there's at least, I mean, however many children you have. For us, it's a minimum of 2.
Yeah.
2 people in this life that all they want is a stellar relationship with Meg and myself.
One thing I love about being a mom is I love to teach B and Winnie new things. And so at this point, they're 10 months and we've successfully learned how to say mama, dada. And first of all, when they learned how to start babbling that mama and dada, it is like music to your ears. That was a really exciting night in our house. It is an exciting time.
It's cool.
It was so cool. And another thing that I've been teaching them is just to like clap their hands, learn how to do motions like this. And lastly, another thing I love to do with them is we read books every day. And I think that's been so gratifying to watch because I've read books to them every day since they were little, and now they will lay on the floor and babble to themselves as if they're reading the books to themselves because they know that's something that we do every day. And so it's really cool to watch them develop, but it's really humbling also to watch how what I teach them and how I influence them like transpires. Like I can really watch it like happen before my eyes and see my efforts pay off. And as a parent, you have this opportunity to influence them for good or for bad. And one day, largely their success will be, of course, their own. But one day, their success or their failure will largely rest on your head because you were their greatest influence. Like you will forever be their greatest influence. And so it's so important that you choose to influence them for the good.
Well, I mean, a prime example of this is they will take the book. As Meg said, they will take the book and start babbling to themselves because they've learned that when you read a book, you speak.
Right.
And so, I mean, and that's just a small example, but like you are the examples to your kids, and it's kind of this weird dynamic of a relationship because you are their teacher, but in teaching them, you have to be their example.
And in teaching them, you teach yourself almost again all the principles you learned.
You have to relearn.
Yes.
Because it's like, oh, I have to teach them this, but like I myself might have forgotten.
Yeah.
So you have to bring it back to your remembrance, and it's just this huge responsibility that you have as a parent because you are shaping these kids for the better or for worse. It's like that song that I've Been Watching You.
Oh yeah.
By that country singer. Yeah. And he's like, my son said a word that started with S and ended with a T. And he's like, where did you learn that word? And he's like, oh, you, Dad.
Oh, I learned it from you.
Right? And he also, on the flip side, he's like, where did you learn to pray like that? And he goes, oh, I learned it from you.
Right.
And so your kid is going to get every good thing and every bad thing about you. So just be mindful of your example to them. But I kind of want to leeway this into just one small example of... Not necessarily an example, but just a word of encouragement to all parents out there. Sometimes days can be hard with kids.
Yes.
They can be a lot. There's a quote that I came across, and it reads, "The days feel like years, but the years feel like days." And I think me and Meg can both attest to the fact that this has been the shortest year of our life. Our girls turned 1 in exactly 2 months.
It's
from
been
tomorrow,
so,
2 months from tomorrow.
It has been so fast.
Yeah. But I can also tell you that in this past week, I know there was at least one day that felt like it was 10 years of my life.
I'm going to be transparent. Today's felt like so long. It just is a lot.
Yeah. And you're going to have those days as parents. But
it's not a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing, and that's not a negative thing. But it's just a word of encouragement, and I think that's what's beautiful about being a parent is... you take the good and bad days, and that's what makes it special.
Mm-hmm.
And this leeways into a really good story, actually. So, before I share this story, I think for all parents out there, sometimes when you have kids, the days can feel like years. Sometimes you can have just a rough patch.
Some days are a little bit long around here.
And especially with twins, like twins can be a handful. But the years feel like days. B and Winnie turned 1 in
2 months.
Yeah, in 2 months' time.
2 months. They're 1 year old.
And that's what's crazy to me, because like some days I'm like, man, this feels like I have been in this day for a lifetime. But they turn 1 and it feels like a blink of an eye that they were just born. And the story that I want to share is I just want to make sure that all parents recognize the effect that they have on their kids, and to be very mindful of how they react and respond to kids, even though they might have had a long day, even though you might be frustrated or slightly annoyed. What you say or what you do to your kid is going to impact them for a lifetime. So the story goes that a father comes home from work and he finds his house in utter disarray. It is just a mess. And he hears the baby crying in the other room, which means to him that his wife was changing the baby's diaper and that she was tending to their newborn. However, this meant that their 3-year-old daughter was left unattended for, maybe a couple minutes?
1 or 2 minutes.
And so the father finds that the 3-year-old in those couple minutes has caused the mess in the house. And so he kneels down and starts picking things up off the ground, and he just gives out a sigh and goes, I really love you when you're a good girl. And she looks back at her dad with the biggest grin on her face, and she goes, oh, Dad, I love you all the time.
I love you all the time.
And that's what I hope that me as a dad, as well as any parent out there, is that they can love their kids all the time. Even when they cause messes, even when they cause problems, even when they throw tantrums. Just love your kids all the time, because in a blink they'll be 1, and then in another blink they're going to be 18 and out of your house. And I just really hope that me as a father can say that I gave my best, and that my daughters at the end of the day, especially when they move out at 18 to go to college or whatever that is that they're pursuing, know that their dad loves them no matter what.
That's so beautiful. There's another story that we're going to share. There is a boy, and he asks his mom. He said, hey, can I have a list of 10 chores that I can do today? And the mom's like, well, sure. So on the list, it's, do the dishes, vacuum the living room, clean the bathroom. She gives him a full list of 10 chores. And the day goes by, and he completes each one of them. And he brings the list back to his mom at the end of the day, and he's turned this list into like a kind of ledger. And he goes, doing the dishes, $3. Vacuuming the living room, $2. And so he has itemized and priced each of the, chores that he has completed in the day. And he gives this list to his mom, and his mom looks at it, and, he goes off and gets ready for bed or whatever. And as he's about to go to bed, she gives him a list. And on her list, she puts, folded and clean laundry, $0. Preparing your meals, $0. Taking you to school, $0. Helping you with your homework, $0. And then at the end of the paper, she just puts, I love you. And I like this story because I think it shows to the extent of how much, a good parent does for their kid, and how much money the world would actually pay if a mother was a paid, position, how much money you would make in the day based on all you do for your kids. Yeah.
Actually, interestingly enough, my grandfather, he was an attorney and he was a judge. And on one occasion, this family was suing the railroad because their mother got hit in a railroad accident. And it was no fault to hers. I mean, probably slightly her fault, but the crossing guard didn't go down. There was no lights flashing, and so she went, and then she got T-boned by a train and killed instantly. And so this family was suing, and the attorney that represented the railroad was like, well, she was just a stay-at-home mom. We're not going to do we're not going to give them a cent. Maybe will be 10 grand, like nothing much.
But what's her contribution
what's
to
her
society?
cost?
Yeah, like what does she really do?
So then the attorney that was representing the family, it was one of my grandfather's really good friends actually, and he itemized everything that a stay-at-home mom does. And it was a chef, a gourmet chef is what he put, and then he put what's the term for a laundromat?
Oh, a laundress?
A laundress? I don't know.
Launderer?
But they went through every single thing that a mom does. And so then he compiled the professions
And the salaries.
And so then at the end of his presentation, he goes, quite frankly, gentlemen, you can't afford like the payout that this family deserves, because not only that, but you took away a mother. Wow. Above all of this, you took away a mother. And I think that's so profound is because so many people kind of frown upon this idea of being a stay-at-home mom. And I could not disagree more that because my mom was a stay-at-home mom and the impact that she had on my life was monumental. And for anybody out there that is debating whether or not you should be a stay-at-home mom, for me, it's a no-brainer that, just looking at my own life and the value that my mom gave to me and the value that she still gives to me, or the same with Meg's mom. And I don't think anybody can ever put a price on the value of a mother.
Right. So, like, to all you mothers out there, what you do matters. Even
really
though
matters.
your menial tasks that, just become these chores, that you think, does this even matter what I'm doing? Does it matter that I'm doing the laundry? Does it matter that I'm cooking meals, keeping the house clean, taking care of my babies? It matters so much.
Yeah.
So much. And I think to emphasize this, there's this quote by Barbara Bush, and Elijah shared it with me, and it's so beautiful. And it says, "But whatever the era, whatever the times, one thing will never change. Fathers and mothers, if you have children, they must come first. You must read to your children, and you must hug your children, and you must love your children. Your success as a family, our success as a society, depends not on what happens in the White House, but on what happens inside your house." This is coming from the First Lady.
Mm-hmm.
Her husband is the President of the United States, who really has control and makes decisions for the entire world. And she is telling these people that the most important thing that you can do is take care of your children and be a good parent inside the home.
Yeah.
So, again, what you do matters every
really
day.
Matters. I mean, I just recently heard the story of Abraham Lincoln's mother's dying words to him. And all she said to him was, "Abe, be something." And I would say he lived up to that. But think about that impact. Just on her dying breath, she says, "Be something." And that resonated with him for his entire life. And he wanted to make his mother proud. And I think she died when he was, 8?
Mm-hmm.
He was really young. He was a little kid. And yet that stuck with him his entire life. Because it was words from his mother.
Yeah.
It matters. It really matters to have a mom and have a dad and have their influence in your life.
That story reminds me of a story about my dad. So I was the oldest of 8. And so when I started high school, obviously I couldn't drive for a couple years.
Right.
And so my dad would be the one who took me to school every day. And it was actually really special because that was, 10 minutes every day that him and I got to share. That was uninterrupted from, the rest of my family. I loved spending time with my family, but having that one-on-one time with my dad was awesome. And what was cool is on our drives to school, no matter what was going on in my life, he never lectured me, even though I'm sure sometimes I would, think to deserve the lectures, as I'm working through being a teenager, all the things. He never lectured me, and him and I would just chat, and he would, make sure that he was so involved in all the details of the things that were going on in school. He wanted to know about my sports. He wanted to know about my classes. He wanted to know about my friends. He wanted to know about everything. And then every day as I would leave the car, the last thing he would say to me every day was, "Do good." That's it. It was, and my dad actually isn't a man of many words a lot of the times, but he would always tell me, do good. And that was the last thing I heard as I went into school. And I think that really resonated with me and helped me in high school because, you know, one, my dad showed every day that he was believing in me, and two, like, he wanted me to do good. And because of that, I wanted to do good in my classes, in my sports, be good to my friends, because there was this man that cared about me so much, and it was so important to me.
I think that's incredible. So hats off to Austin Babcock.
We love you.
That guy's amazing.
He's such a good dad.
We talk about him a lot, actually.
He's a good dad.
He's a good dude.
I had a great mom, too.
He wasn't my dad, but he's a great guy in general.
And I need to just add this disclaimer, too. My mom, my dad was the one who drove me to school. But my mom, who was the one in the morning who, made my breakfast, helped me get my outfit ready, made sure that all my little details, I'd clean clothes every day. She made sure all of those details were taken care of so that man could drive me to school and so I could do good at school.
I actually want you to share the story of how your mom always made these gourmet meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner. But what do you remember as a kid?
So I was always taken care of diet-wise. My mom was...
She's a chef.
She is an amazing cook, and she's also really good at making, like, healthy, balanced meals. So I grew up fresh bread every day.
Every time we go there, guys, like,
there's fresh bread every day.
Oh, my gosh.
Homemade food every night. Always vegetables, but they're always presented in a way that's, like, delicious. I loved vegetables growing up. Anyway, so, like, I know that my mom made these amazing meals every day because she still does. But growing up, I can remember my dad cooking for me. And he would make his specialty of octopus hot dogs. And it's such a highlight in my childhood memory. Like, he would boil the hot dogs, he'd boil them. And then he would take scissors and cut the hot dogs so they had like 8 legs. And then he'd draw little ketchup faces on them. And we were so stoked about these octopus hot dogs. And all he did was a hot dog. Whereas, like, the night before, I'm sure my mom had made, like, pasta and fresh bread and a salad and all of these things. But the thing that's, like, the meal that stands out, the brightest to me are these octopus hot dogs. I told my dad about them the other day, and he just got this little, like, grin on his face.
Like a proud dad.
Yeah, and then he was like, oh, I really need to. I do this with Molly, who's my youngest sister. Anyways, it's super cute.
Well, that's what I think is so amazing about it is, like, the impact that mothers and fathers can have you can't measure it.
Right.
And that's what's so beautiful and so unique, that even God gives people the opportunity to be parents. Because quite frankly, I don't even think I'm deserving of being a father.
I feel very humbled.
I feel like very humbled, but also very unqualified.
Yes.
To be a father. And I think that's what makes all good parents qualified, is because they don't feel qualified.
And I do think one thing that will help to qualify you is the love that you do feel for your children. It is a whole new level of love that you feel for someone once you have your baby. And it comes to the point where you can honestly say, like, I know Elijah and I can both say, I would 100% give my life so that my babies could live. No problem.
This actually reminds me of a beautiful story. And I'm not sure if it's a true story or not. I'm pretty sure it is, but you could go and fact check me. So it's during the French Revolutionary War, and hundreds of prisoners are taken down to the barracks or the prison, and the guards would come in every day and they would read what they called the death list, and it was the people that would get taken to the gallows to be hung. And on one occasion, all of a sudden the hair on the back of a young boy's neck stands straight up. His name has just been read by one of the guards. And before he can move a muscle, somebody else stands up in his place, but he can't see who it is. And so this this young man thought he imagined it. And he's like, was my name even called? And so finally he, like, rushes up to the gate as all the prisoners are being escorted to the gallows. And he sees a familiar face, and it's his father. And his father just gives him a nod and walks out to meet his death. And this just reminds me of what Meg was just talking about, because I think all of us, all good parents, me, Meg, and so many others, would give their lives for their kids. No problem. Without even any hesitation. And there's this kind of a trend going around right now, and I think it's something to just kind of ask yourselves. It's like, yeah, would you give your life for your kid, but would you live for your kid?
Mm-hmm.
Would you make every day special for them? Would you make sure that you take care of yourself so that you can better take care of them? And I think it's a question that all of us need to ask ourselves and really strive to accomplish every day. Is just not only be able to be the parent that would lay down their life for the kid, but also be the parent that would live for their kid.
I like that. That's a cool way to think about it. One of the last thoughts we want to share with you today is we'd like to tie it back to our Heavenly Father. And Elijah and I, being Christians, we have this belief that even though God is omniscient, we have this belief that He is our Heavenly Father. And because of that, we can have a relationship with Him similar to the one that we might have with our earthly father.
Yeah.
And within our church, there's this quote, and it reads, "God is our Father, and of all the titles of respect and honor and admiration that are given to deity, He has asked us to address Him as Father."
And I think that more than anything means the world to me, because this really ties back to what we said at the beginning, that when you do become a parent, it's a promotion. You now have the title of mother and father. And our God, even though He is the most divine, chooses to be called Father. And I think the fact that we have the opportunity to be called fathers and mothers is a very special thing, and we should never take it for granted. Rather, we should make certain to make the most of it every day. And then I would also just add this last bit of encouragement for anybody who has a rougher parents. You know, not everybody gets born into a loving home, and not everybody has the opportunity to be raised by both a mother and a father. And heaven forbid that you had a parent that passed away. And for anybody that's out there that doesn't have that, we just want you to know that you always do have your Heavenly Father. That He is always there for you. That He is the one that can strengthen you in your time of need and give you the guidance and direction that you need, even if you don't have earthly parents to turn to.
And I'd also like to add, too, that He loves you with that fatherly love. Like, you are His child.
Yeah.
And so His love for you is just matchless.
It's unwavering.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, thank you guys for joining us today.
Yes. So, if you are becoming a parent, congratulations, you've been promoted.
Yes, and we hope this message resonates with you. So, until next time.
Till next time. Peace.
Peace.